What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here with Kelly K9. Another week, another Super Bowl champion we're bringing into the cave. I told you guys, the Cowboys can't seem to get it done, so we're going to bring the champions to you. And for those of you guys who are just a little younger and haven't had the opportunity to taste championships, we had Tony Hill on last week, and we're getting even better and better. We had a one-time champion. We're going to up the ante, and we're going with a two-time Super Bowl champion, Kelly. We got James Washington, the hard-hitting safety, nickname Drive-By. If you got nickname Drive-By, you're bringing you're going to bring it every time. And he was one of my favorites on that team of the 90s. And it's what I talked about, Kelly, is the Cowboys today, they got all the glam, they got all that. The Cowboys in the 90s, yeah, they had that, but you had to have those hard-nosed, blue-collar guys that cared nothing about winning. And James Washington, he was one of those Plan B free agents that came over to the Cowboys in 1990. I don't know why he wanted to come over there after one win, but we're going to find out. But, Kelly, are you pumped up for this good time we're going to have?
Oh, man, you already know I'm pumped up, man. Anytime we can bring a Super Bowl champion into the cave, it ain't going to take much to get my blood pumping and get my heart going. I just wish that we could get some of these champions that we bring into the cave, that we could get that to be contagious into the Cowboys locker room. Because, listen, when you bring a guy like this in, man, like you said, the nickname Drive-By, better keep your head on a swivel because this man will knock you out your cleats. So, anytime we could bring that kind of passion, that kind of intensity into the cave, Cowboys Nation, we gotta bring that to you and let you understand that there's levels to this Cowboys franchise, and these are the kind of players that set the foundation and are part of the history, the rich history of the Dallas Cowboys that we want to get back to now, and got to find a way to get back to it. And maybe Mr. Washington can help us. Kind of delve into this.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah,
so let's not wait. Let's bring the man in. We're talking about two-time Super Bowl champion. Now, I will say before you get going, I made the argument, and we'll get into it, probably should have been Super Bowl MVP. I think you got robbed a little bit, but we'll get into it. I don't know if you feel the same, but how are you doing?
Co-MVP. Because my frat brother deserved it because I kept giving him the ball so that he can get in the end zone. I'm never gonna knock that he had 32 yards and I had 70 yards. I only played defense.
That's right. But you made the play that changed it. People forget that Super Bowl, the Cowboys, we weren't looking so good. We weren't looking so good in that first half, and you set the tone in the second half and got it going. So definitely deserve your props.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
So,
yes, sir.
Mr. James Washington, first of all, honor to have you in the cave, and just me as a lifelong Cowboy fan, huge fan of yours. You're always, one of the guys that, like I talked about earlier, you had Emmett, you had Aikman, you had Irvin, all the big guys, but it was like the guys like you, just hard hitting, wanting to win, Kenny Norton, and you had, Darren Smith a little bit later. You had to represent some guys from the U, but people forget how great this Cowboys team was. Yeah, you had the stars, but, the meat of the team were guys like you that really brought that organization to the Super Bowl and got them to the next level.
Well, I'm going to say it's about my team, but it's always about my defense. Yeah. I think during the 90s, I don't think the guys really realized how good our defense was. We couldn't have done it without our offense. Don't get it wrong. We had and it wasn't just the three amigos that was getting it done. I'm gonna grab Alvin Harper. I'm going to grab, the Hogs up front. If Eric Williams don't get hurt and have the car accident, bro, I'm telling you, no matter what you want to talk about, he's not only one of the best linemen, he's probably the best lineman that ever played for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then you come to the defensive side, and I'm going to tell you, Charles Haley gets all the accolades, which he deserves, but Tony Tolbert was the best defensive lineman that I've ever played with.
Yeah.
Because I played on the strong side. So most of the time, he was the guy that was making me look good. I never worried about if he was in the inside or the outside. That was what the accountability that I think our team brought. I think we was very accountable. If I got there at 5:30, it was only 2 people there before me. And that would probably be the dude that you guys would never expect. Michael Irvin and I pulled up in the parking lot every morning about the same time, real early.
Wow. No, but that's what it took for the championship. But for you, just we want to talk a little bit about your career before we get to the Super Bowl years and the good times, because there's always a path, there's always a journey. And, you went to UCLA. Probably, some would say you should have been a first round pick, had some injuries, but you played with Ken Norton, who obviously was a great Cowboys linebacker. Again, one of my favorites from the team in the 90s. Did you play with Troy Aikman in UCLA? Was there any kind of connection?
1 year.
1 year?
He wasn't as good as he was about the time he got to the pros. I played. So you remember back in the day, you couldn't play when you transferred in, so you had to sit out a year.
Yeah.
But then it took him probably 1 year to get acclimated. And I mean, we still won 10 ball games out of 12. But about time he got to the pros, and not taking anything away from Troy, he was probably one of the best game managers. And people always talk about the accolades and what he probably would have been if, and we'll talk about if Jimmy would have stayed.
Yeah.
But he was a guy that wouldn't lose a ball game for you. If he didn't get a concussion of some sort, he would not lose a ball game for you. Yeah. And with the team around him, and they all respected him. We all respected our quarterback in the locker room, behind the blue curtain. You've never heard not one player, and I'm not talking about because he was my teammate at UCLA. You never heard not one person on our team say anything bad about our quarterback.
Probably none of your family members either, like you see in today's game.
It's a different time. The social media, everybody has a voice and everybody's trying to be a rock star and they're trying to find their moment. You know how life is, though. Everybody's looking for that 5 minute, 10 minute of fame or whatever you're looking for. And what's happened, a lot of family members, a lot of friends is costing a lot of NFL guys and NBA guys.
Yeah.
A lot of money and a lot of jobs.
Yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand it. And it just blows my mind that they do it. But, you were drafted in the 5th round. So I don't know if you were disappointed kind of where you were, but you went to LA, you went to the Rams, which back in the day, I don't remember them always being good, but there was a time they were. And it was when you were there and you made your first start in the NFC Championship game in '89. What kind of feeling was that?
Against San Francisco. Yes. San Francisco's always been, I grew up hating San Francisco. I continue to hate San Francisco when I came to Dallas, and I still hate San Francisco. So, and I'm an LA kid. So I grew up a Raider fan. So I hated San Francisco even before them. You know what I'm saying? So, but the funny thing is kind of like I went to UCLA and all my friends are from USC. I played for the Cowboys, and most of my friends now played for San Francisco. So, but the thing that I dislike is that they make a judgment on you on one day. You go to the combine. Yeah. I blew my knee out my senior year, and things changed. The draft, the whole thing. I was going to come out my junior year, but I had promised my grandmother I was going to get my degree, which I did. I got my degree, have a master's degree at this point in time. And so I stayed in school, end up getting leg whip and tore my posterior. A lot of people don't even know that I played with a brace my entire career.
I didn't know that.
If you look at my uniform, I played with a brace 8 years in the league.
Wow.
And it's like that lineman brace that they have to protect. Mm-hmm. I had that on my knee my entire career.
Wow.
But when I went to the combine, they told me And I say this to other young people out there. No one person, man or woman, can control your destiny. The only thing that controls your destiny is your desire to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And you can work through it. And if you put in the time and the effort, it's only 0.6% chance of any athlete from high school to make it to the pros. And I was just excited to be part of that 0.6.
Yeah.
And I tried to make every day the best day on and off the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did. And you did. And you said something, and I want Kelly to jump in, I'm not going to drag this one out, but it's more personal, but it's just good to hear you say that. And I'm going to play that for my daughter because she plays flag football, and she started her sophomore year. She went out, had to try out her junior year, didn't make the team, but the coach had left her a note saying he wants to talk to her. And he had said that we want you on a team, but there's a senior ahead and it's just a battle of spots. But I can't guarantee you a lot of playing time, but you got an opportunity if you want to be part of the team. And I told her, I said, you tell them you want it. All you ask for is open competition. If you go in and put the work in and you're better, give you the opportunity. And I said, if you get that opportunity, it's up to you to make sure you don't give that position up. So hearing you say that, it just kind of, it solidifies what I told her today. So I'm going to make her watch this too.
No, not only that, you tell your daughter this. You say, why did James Washington come to the Dallas Cowboys? Actually, it was a couple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be part of something that's building than something that's already established. Because I know I'm a difference maker. I know Ken Norton was a difference maker. And me and Ken Norton won Rose Bowls at UCLA together. And I figured if we had an opportunity, even though they already had starters and guys that they was calling their starters before I got there. But I believed that I was better. And I'll tell you some stories that some guys that was better than me felt the same way.
Yeah.
But if you believe that you're that guy that can make a difference, it's not about being 1-15, because I know that they wasn't going to be 1-15 by the time I left.
Yeah, and they weren't.
That's the kind of attitude to have, though, and I like that. I mean, that's what separates the great players from the average players is that kind of attitude. But so let me ask you. I was gonna ask, why you chose Dallas in the Plan B free agency, but obviously you kind of shared a little bit of that with us right there. So let me ask you a question. You showed up in 1990. Obviously, like you said, you knew this team was building something, right? They'd won one game the previous year. How soon was it that you stepped, that you got into Dallas? Did you realize and understand that you guys had the foundation of something that was going to be special or that could be special? When did you start to realize that potential?
Oh, man. I want to say this. I knew that our defense was going to eventually be good. So I came in Plan B. Emmitt Smith was drafted that same year. We lived in Valley Ranch. We stayed right next to each other. He stayed in, like, literally out the door was his apartment the first year. And when I saw him write down his goals, and I had played against him in a bowl game, Florida. We beat him, but my senior year. But I knew that this young man was special. I already knew what Troy brought. So Troy had the arm. He just needed a running game. I didn't quite know all the linemen yet, but I can tell just from the conversations that me and Emmitt had during that off season and the time that we spent together in that off season, I knew that he was a young leader. I was a young leader, and we was the youngest team to ever win the Super Bowl at that point in time. And I knew that we had a lot of hungry guys. I knew that what they were bringing in, they brought in a lot of UCLA guys and a lot of Miami guys.
Got to have guys from the U. I'm a Miami guy, so I love it.
They brought in more UCLA guys than they brought in Miami dudes.
Did they?
Oh, yes, they did.
Jimmy Jones.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
Because we beat him in the Fiesta Bowl my freshman year. That's why.
Oh, but wait a minute. When you guys were ranked, you were already gone. But I just remember that at last game, the hurricane kind of delayed it, and Edger and James dropped like 200
No,
on
that
you
was
guys.
in 95. Was it 90? They were supposed to go to the national championship.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, that's
payback.
So we had that say every time you get to that point, they always forget that they lost in the Fiesta Bowl. So when you have an opportunity to bring in the right guys, and this is what Jimmy Johnson, he had a knack for. I remember Plan B coming on my trip. I didn't think I was going to Dallas. My workout wasn't that well because it was cold and I think it was windy. But I had worked out for the Raiders. And, I had always been a Raider fan, a Lester Hayes fan, guy from Texas. And I wanted to go wear number 37 for the Raiders originally. And back then they didn't have cell phones. So I went on a trip and I was flying through Dallas. And they took me off the plane, American Airlines. And I'm heated. It was and I'm wondering why I'm at the airport off the plane. The Dallas Cowboys come pick me up. Me and my ex-wife pick me up, and I'm trying to figure it out. They take me over to the facility, and I'm like, oh man. And then they sit me down with Jimmy Johnson. And you got to understand this. This is a true story. He sits down and he says, hey, we want you to be a Dallas Cowboy. So I call my agent. I'm like, what the hell's going on? He says, they're giving you the best offer and the best opportunity. And I say, here again, this is what you tell your daughter. All you want is an opportunity. And all your preparation, all your desire, and all your hard work will make the decision for that coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what happened. He said to me, he says, in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be playing in the Super Bowl. And you got to understand, I had just lost in the NFC Championship. So I know how hard it is to get there. I did everything in my spirit not to laugh in the man's face. But lo and behold, 3 years later, not only am I playing in the Super Bowl, I'm playing in the Super Bowl where I had won 2 Rose Bowls, and it was my home stadium. I'm in the locker when I was at UCLA, and I look over at Ken Norton, and I say, it was a numb feeling the entire time. And then you brought me back to Los Angeles, and I kept missing meetings. I just couldn't find myself, I'm a person that's on time all the time. But you came back to Los Angeles for the Super Bowl, thank God we had that extra week.
You know what was interesting is on the Plan B. I was looking it up because I was trying to remember what Plan B was about, and it was they put it in place to 30. I think it was 37 guys got protected, and the rest kind of open to negotiate. And I found the article that the Cowboys got some Plan B free agents in 1990. And the funny thing to me is you were just the other ones they signed. They were advertising Dennis McKinnon and Timmy Smith, who was a running back for Washington. I just thought that was interesting. And you were the one, but you were the best one in the bunch. You know what I mean?
No,
so,
okay, no. Hey, it was me and Jay Novacek. Matter of fact, when we came back for the reunion, we used to laugh about that. We was like, matter of fact, we came back to the reunion, and I said, how did that Plan B thing work out for you?
The funny thing, he wasn't even in the article.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I said, how did that Plan B thing work out for you? And the fact is that you're talking about 2 guys from 2 walks of life, and what he played at that point, we considered an H-back, but he was a tight end. He brought in as a tight end, but he invented that H space. To be able to be flex. All these guys, the Shannons, the Kelseys, and all that. Jay Novacek was the first guy to do it.
Yeah.
And because, like you say, because we had those bright stars, a lot of guys kind of went unnoticed. They realized what Moose did.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff that wouldn't have happened on offense, Mike or Irvin, if it wasn't a Jay Novacek. You know what I'm saying? Just like if it wasn't a Moose, it wasn't an Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
If it wasn't the Hogs, Troy Aikman wouldn't have had no time. And you see how that worked together? This is what this new generation has to learn. I know it's about money, but guess what? Think about how much you can get paid if you really win.
Especially in Dallas. I mean, it's
Dallas winning the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about what happens when you're unselfish, like the Tony Toberts of the world.
Yeah.
The Leon Letts of the world. And a guy that goes unnoticed is Jimmy Johnson, a defensive lineman from Miami.
Oh, Jimmy Jones
Jimmy Jones from Miami. Think about if we don't have those guys, the Kenny Gantz.
Another one.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was guys, and then we all knew our role. I was not the star, but I was a leader.
You were
You see what I'm saying? It's a difference. I wasn't Charles Haley, and I'm okay, and I'm still not Charles Haley. But when it came to running the defense, I guarantee you they listened.
Yeah.
Because guys show up, don't talk a lot. I talked a lot, but you also play hard. And I only knew how to practice one way, and it was full speed.
Yeah. Wow, and that's what made you so special. And the thing I loved about your career, and just obviously as a fan just watching, is you always had the knack for the plays in big moments. I mean, even Super Bowl 27, if my memory's right, I believe you got an interception.
I got the first one.
I got the first one.
Yeah.
First and 9. It kind of took away your little thunder there.
You know what, though? It's like this. I swear to God, I told and that particular Super Bowl, I thought Ken Norton should have been the MVP of that particular game. The goal line stand that Ken had, he recovered a fumble, sack. It was some key moments. We had a lot of big plays on defense. And I said, if I ever get to the Super Bowl again, they'll never forget me. We end up going back the next year, And
I
think
you got an interception in the NFC Championship game in
always. The ball. Hey, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Darren Woodson would be the first to tell you. I told Darren, I said I would rather knock somebody out and get an interception. And if I'm going to knock them out, if the ball gets stuck in my face mask, I'll catch it. My role and my desire was not about interceptions. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'd rather cause a fumble by running into somebody, drawing it, making a hit that impacts the entire stadium. Because I've had hits that Texas Stadium went wild.
Oh yeah.
And I've had hits in other stadiums where everybody go, ooh.
Yeah.
And everybody has to know their role. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I knew what my role was. As coach used to say, be smart when we come out the huddle. I knew that I had a leash to be able to make a play or make a hit that sometimes is questionable, but Jimmy trusted that I was smart enough to do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, and you talk about when you had that opportunity and you said, next time around they're going to remember you, and just so you know, I'm sure if you're not aware, it's, you're in the top 50 of the top 50 greatest performances in Super Bowl history with that Super Bowl 28. Having a fumble scoop return for a touchdown, or fumble return for a touchdown. You got an interception and another forced fumble. So, I mean, you were playing out of your mind in that game, and you're playing at the highest level, right? You're playing at the Super Bowl. You're playing at the highest level. I mean, what does it feel like? Just all the work, hard work, preparation, everything that you kind of envisioned and dreamed about, but then seeing it come to fruition on the biggest stage in sports. What was that feeling like for you personally? I mean,
I'm going to tell you this. I mean, that year was a tough year because we had the coming of Darren Woodson. I had got hurt early in the Washington game, and that was the insurgent of Darren Woodson, who is the best athlete that I've ever played with in the pros. Cornell Lake is the best athlete I've ever played in college. But hands down, Darren Woodson, who was coming in to replace me. They drafted him to replace me. And I remember his rookie year, and I'll get to the point that I'm going to make. His rookie year, I told him, I said, I understand they brought you here to replace me. And I'll teach you everything that I know. But today, and this is when he was a young buck, and he's still a young buck to me. And I say to him, and I'll say it to you, and if he was right here, I'll say it again. I say, today, you're not better than me. But I'm going to teach you, if you're here at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll teach you everything that I know. See, that was the desire to win. If I needed to come off the bench and there's somebody better than me on the field, then I'm okay with still. As a backup that year in the 45 package, I ended up playing just as much because they brought in Thomas Everett. It was 3 of us in a rotation, 2 Pro Bowlers and me. But I found my role and I became the enforcer. And after first down, I was on the field, more than anybody. But the thing is, here again, we were talking about sacrificing for the greater good of everything. That's what this team needs to do now. Some dudes on the squad needs to get out the highlights and get out the club and sacrifice for the greater good of the team.
Yeah.
I think there's too many eyes on the team. Individuals make a team, but it's glory, Instagram. It's like, what can we do to shine? Bro, guess what happens when you lose? Everybody loses. Can you imagine if this squad is way more talented? I don't care what nobody says. I've played football. I analyzed football. I've talked about football. This football team is way more talented than we were.
Wow. That's a big statement.
No. Hear me out. If they get the right running back, and that's what they're missing. That's the piece. That's a big piece that they're missing. They're probably missing about 1 or 2 pieces. You remember when we went and got Charles Haley? We was a very talented defense, but we became great when Charles Haley got there. Yeah. And it only takes 1 piece. They went and got Emmitt Smith. A lot of people talk about, and I think Barry Sanders is the best running back to ever play the game.
Oh, you're going to get me started. Go ahead.
No. Watch this. Barry Sanders would not have been Barry Sanders with that offensive line.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying?
I agree with you.
That offensive line and the offense that Norv Turner brought in was built for Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
It was not built for Barry Sanders.
I want to ask you something with that because as you can see behind me, I'm Emmitt Smith. Tony Dorsett was the reason I'm a Cowboy fan, but Emmitt Smith was my guy. And even though he's a Florida Gator, I let that slide being a Hurricane. But I'll say this. I used to get in fights, not fist fights, but pretty good arguments all his whole career because of the Barry Emmett comparison. And they always talking about Emmett Smith's line. And I would make the argument that is it the line or is it Emmett Smith? Is a combination of both? I mean, because I saw Derek Lassick when Emmett Smith held out running behind that line, and he didn't do too well. And the team never succeeded when Emmett wasn't there. So what's your thoughts when you hear that argument of Emmett Smith is a product of the offensive line?
Emmett Smith is the best running back to ever play for the Dallas Cowboys. Emmett Smith is the all-time leading rusher in the NFL. I do not take that away from him.
Yeah, that's good.
It was a yin and yang.
I mean, it took both, but Emmett
It was a yin and yang because Emmett made that offensive line all Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Hall of Famers. That offensive line made Emmett MVP. Yeah. All-time leading rusher. It was a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
Smith, if you put Emmett Smith in other places, it wouldn't have worked because Norv Turner, and see, people don't give him enough credit neither. Norv Turner created the similar type of offense that Emmett was used to. And that line blocked accordingly.
And they did a phenomenal job, and obviously got Emmett Smith to all the records. And the 94 season, I got to ask you, because you have Jimmy leaving, and we had Barry Switzer on the show. And just correct me if I'm wrong. You played 1 year with Barry Switzer, then you went to Washington. Am I right?
Yes, yeah. Okay. You are correct.
So the thing, I had Barry Switzer on. I had Dave Campo on. Dave Campo told the story. Barry Switzer kind of told the story. Moose told the story. So I definitely want your version of it. But I'd say this about Barry Switzer, and you tell me if I'm crazy, and you tell me if I'm way off. But the thing that I would give Barry Switzer kind of his due on is Jerry Jones had that comment that 500 coaches could coach that team. And I think Barry Switzer was put in kind of the worst position a coach can be put in. He was in a no-win situation. If he won, it was Jimmy Johnson. If he lost, it was all his fault. He not only had to win over the coaches, but he had to win over the players, replacing the guy that just got him back-to-back Super Bowl titles. So what was your thoughts in the whole thing that went down? And I mean, what were players thinking? I was like, how can these guys not kind of, the egos get too much? I mean, it was crazy.
Look at this. This goes to show you how me and Barry Switzer got along. I had my best season his year. 5 interceptions, 100-plus tackles, second on the team in tackles, leading the team in interceptions that year. And they allowed me to leave.
Yeah.
Because I have always been a guy that I fight for success. And I saw Troy didn't start seeing it until after the fact, but I saw it right away. Hands down, I'm a Jimmy Johnson guy.
Yeah.
I work hard. I play hard. I respect the guys that play and practice how we practice. And I saw little things happening that I can see that the direction, that's how great we were. And I'm not taking anything away from him as a college coach, not taking anything away from what he did in college. But he was the start of the downfall.
Yeah.
Our team was so good, despite head coach, to win. And they went on to win another Super Bowl. Only reason we didn't go to the Super Bowl 4 times in a row, we was injured. Our guys were banged up. And think about our offense. We went down 21-0 and almost came back to win. When has our team, the three amigos, interception,
Yeah.
fumble. Matter of fact, was it interception?
It was all three. It was, I think it was a fumble, interception.
You hear what I'm? When does that normally happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we still almost came back.
A pass interference that wasn't called away from the comeback.
Don't worry about all that.
Michael Irvin still talks about it.
He can talk about it all he wants. Catch the damn ball. Just like he tell me, this is what Michael tell me, make the damn tackle. I miss a tackle. I don't even get it from the coach. I'll get it from Mike as he walking off the field. Make the damn tackle. Guess what? Catch the damn ball.
See, and that's accountability right there, though. That's
I'm gonna tell you, the funniest thing is nothing like missing a tackle on the field, and you don't even have to worry about the coaches. Bro, you get so much heat from the offensive dudes coming off the field. You're so embarrassed. You play so that you don't get cracked on the plane. That's the and nobody's sensitive though. See, like now you got people, everybody's sensitive. Nobody's sensitive. Yeah. It's called accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, James, you played in a different time, as a different era. Obviously, things are a little bit different now. And me personally, I know a lot of people that they fell in love with offense and the running backs and wide receivers and stuff. I was always a guy that loved the defense. I like the plays when a guy would get coming over the middle, he gets hit, and I mean just laid out on the field. I love that. I love watching the safeties play, the linebackers, all that. What do you think about the way that they've kind of changed the game now to where it's really more catered to the offense? They've kind of put handcuffs on some of these defensive players to where you don't really see the big hits anymore. It's like they're almost not. And then when you do see them, the flags come out. It's almost now to where when a wide receiver is coming on, you got to let him catch the ball before you can hit him and make sure he's looking at you. I mean, what do you think of all these rule changes as a former defensive player that, played with his hair on fire and was, earned the nickname drive-by from, knocking people out of the cleats? What do you think about the way that it's coached and officiated now?
Hey, put it this way, bro. I would have been working off of EBT cards every Sunday. Because they would have been taking all my checks. You know what I'm saying? I'd have been in that food stamp line like I was when I was a little kid, man. You know what they tried? They tried to make the game more entertaining, more marketable, because people love the offense. And I love a great defensive game. 10-7 is the way I wake up. 10-7 is the way I go to sleep. It's
I like it.
True story. Every game when I was with the Cowboys as a starter, I used to go to Troy Aikman. And I say, how many points do we need to hold them to before every game? Once we got on the roll, I go over to Troy and how many points do we need to hold them to? There's only a couple teams that he says, man, if you can hold them to 7, we got a chance. And obviously it was Philadelphia.
I was going to say Philly.
You know what I'm saying? It was Philadelphia. And back in the day, because you remember our division was so stacked. Philadelphia and the Giants, that he would say, man, if we can just get 7, you can hold them to 7. Under 10, I can get you 14. Mm-hmm. That's the accountability that we had coming out. And I think it's going to always come down to accountability and trusting the guy that's next to you. Not the guy that's at your house, not the guy on the phone, not the guy that's tweeting. Me and Nate was the first dudes to have a radio show. And we talked every Tuesday. We had a show before Michael. We had a show before Jimmy and Jerry. But it did not affect what we did on Sunday. And this is what guys, because this is a different era. Getting back to what you're saying, this is a different era and a different time.
Yeah.
The rules is to sell tickets and to build an enterprise of excitement.
Yeah.
And if you're laying out Jerry Rice and, Shannon Sharp and all those guys and they're not on the field, people are upset. They want to see those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So a guy like James Washington, lay him out. It's okay to hit him, but how I used to hit him, wasn't getting up too much. And can you imagine, these dudes are bigger, stronger, and faster than we were. Yeah. I played at 225, and I was the slowest dude in the secondary. Once my knee got back in shape, I was the slowest dude in our secondary running a 4.4. Darren Woodson runs 4.3. Both of my corners run 4.2. Kenny Gant comes off the bench with Holmes. Both of those dudes are running 4.2s and 4.3s.
That's it. Wow. You guys.
That's just the secondary.
Yeah.
See, but people don't get the talent that we have. I don't care what era you put us in. We're still running that fast and hitting that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of a guy that you played with too, you brought him up, several times, Darren Woodson. Obviously, he's a finalist for the Hall of Fame. He hasn't gotten his due yet. Obviously, we talked about, Dave Campo, Coach Campo told the story about, he was there when scouting, at the combine and stuff. And he echoed what you said. He said he was the greatest athlete he's ever coached, ever seen. I mean, what's your thoughts on Darren Woodson, a Hall of Famer? I'm surprised he isn't in yet, but I mean, is it long overdue for him to get in there?
I thought he should have. Me personally, I'm a little biased. I can't understand if you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys of the 90's. He's the all-time leading rusher, all-time leading tackler.
Yeah.
In the Cowboys' history. He has 3 Super Bowl rings, and he's hands down the best defensive athlete to play in the 90's for the Cowboys. Charles Haley has his own resume because he would have went to the Hall of Fame if he just stayed in San Francisco, wherever. Yeah. But you're telling me Darren Woodson, out of all the guys on that defense, and he's the only one, should next be into the Hall of Fame, and he should have went in day one.
Yeah.
It's just because he didn't have a whole lot of interception and he wasn't the flash. But guess what? Darren Woodson plays 3 positions on the football field that people don't realize. You can put Darren Woodson okay, let's just do this. There's a guy called number 11 for the Dallas Cowboys now. Darren Woodson is 10 times. And I'm telling you this, bro.
Wow.
Darren Woodson could go and rush to, if we was doing it now, he could rush the quarterback. He can cover like a corner. And he can hit like a linebacker, which he played at Arizona State.
Yeah.
And he was the second smartest guy on the football field when we played.
Behind you, of course.
Thank you.
I give you your due. I know that.
The field general.
But I'm just saying, and I'm just kidding on that piece. But
yeah,
no, I'm not. No, I'm not. He is a phenomenal person. He did everything the right way. Everything that says Hall of Fame, he's that guy.
Yeah.
So I say to whoever is listening, if you can't put the best defensive player during my time in the Hall of Fame, there should not be a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I second that. Kelly, do you second that or third?
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's we haven't had a safety like Darren Woodson since, and I don't think they had one since before. So I mean, I don't know how you can ignore one of the best players, defensive players. I mean, obviously there's some great ones, but the best safety in Dallas Cowboys history, how he's not in the Hall of Fame, I think
He's not only the best safety in Cowboys history, he's the all-time leading tackler in Cowboys history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of Hall of Famers on that list.
That's where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
That's already in the Hall.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's something that you kind of got me thinking about when you're talking about the whole Darren Woodson thing and about all these different positions you could play and kind of, the linebacker and everything. And then you mentioned number 11. So I just got to get your opinion on this. There's been a lot of talk since the season has ended. There was talk going into the beginning of the season about Micah Parsons. There's a lot of us that believe that he's a guy that's a generational talent. There's been a lot of comparisons early on from him to LT. He started off kind of playing he was that chess piece, kind of like that, play a little bit linebacker, then he rushed passer. Now he's been more of kind of like rushing the passer full time. He's lining up mostly at, defensive end. And you notice, I mean, from a fan's perspective, and I've seen some things mentioned in the media about how that looks like it kind of nicks him up. And as the season goes on, he just tends to look like he starts to wear down a little bit and doesn't have that same pop and juice that he has at the beginning of the season. So that being said, I mean, what's your opinion on Micah Parsons? I mean, obviously he's a piece that they've shown they can use him everywhere. What do you think fits Micah Parsons as his natural position to play in that defense, as the cornerstone basically of that defense moving forward?
So now you have to switch up your defense and go 3-4 though. Because what you don't want to do is he's that guy. If you said his weight is what, about 230,
like 230, 240, somewhere in there.
At most.
Yeah.
Bro. Yeah. I was the strong safety. I played at 225. Now you telling me these dudes that play linemen now are much bigger than the guys that played with us. And the thing about when you play linebacker or you play safety, you don't get touched every play. Mm-hmm. People don't understand how much he gets touched, chipped.
Yeah.
At 240.
240 was he? 240, somewhere in there.
240, something like that, right?
Yeah. 245. I looked at.
I'm just giving you 245, right? And it's not like he's a DN, a Michael Strahan at 260 or 2, he's getting touched every play. He's not a cover guy. He's not a guy that you can put in a zone like they tried to do against Green Bay.
Oh God.
And he's not that guy.
Yeah.
We call it in the box. He's a madman in the box. You take him out of that box, he's a different athlete. So now you took your best player and put him in a space that he hadn't played all year because you think you got a defensive mind to say, hey, we're going to switch it up. Guess what? Don't switch it up with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know what hunting dogs do? Hunt.
Yeah.
Why you won't let that dog hunt? Play that game with somebody else, but let that dog hunt. Charles Haley ain't contained yet. I'm still waiting for him to contain. That's his job, is to hunt. Bro, we'll figure it out around you.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with him. I think it was the
scheme of the defense.
And I think they have great coaches, but the difference in the day's football is when we played, our defensive coordinator trusted that we was going to put the defense in the right call. We had automatic calls. So it was up for me, Ken Norton, and whoever was the linebacker, Robert Jones, to put us in the call based off the formation. Our sideline, our booth, they trusted that we were studying enough to do such. Today's football, the coaches make the call, and it's not too many audibles that they are able to check out of because the coaches think they know more than the players. And I don't know the study habits of these players. But with that kind of money that they're making, I know they should have sleeping bags in the meeting rooms and watching a lot of tape.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you one thing that never lies. Tape.
Yeah.
Film. Never lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and we just got someone asked to say, you know, maybe you need to be our new defensive coordinator. I don't know if you want to.
No, I don't. Hey, guess what happens? I don't do people like that. I've been fired on one of the players as soon as they said something to me because you know I got that little short temper that used to always. And still, at this day, I still got that same little temper.
Well, let me ask you. So, do you follow the? Are you a Cowboys fan still? I mean, do you follow the team?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So
I get sick to my heart because it's something. Your daughter's an athlete.
Yeah.
You know the potential. My daughter, I'm gonna tell you, my daughter won a national championship in softball for UCLA.
Wow.
She hit the winning run in Oklahoma to win a national championship. And when you know what the talent is and you know the capabilities, and then you know that they're not doing, and I say this to you, the team in the 90s could have been even better. Think about how much we did off the field.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Did that help you on the field, though? Because like you said, it built that camaraderie. No, it made you guys. I mean, geez.
It was camaraderie. Don't get that wrong.
You took a camera to a guy who tried to attack your teammate.
Bro, think about if we could have been so much better.
Wow.
Well, what do you see? You know, you said you follow Cowboys and everything. What is it from your perspective? What do you think that we are lacking defensively? Because I thought that this defense, you know, going into the season, they were the number 5th ranked defense, you know, at the end of the year. But I felt that was a little misleading.
I do.
I felt that was a little misleading because when we went up against what it felt like these more competent offenses. They just knew what to do against us. They did the same thing. Buffalo did it. San Francisco did it.
Miami.
To an extent. Detroit did it. They almost beat us. Miami did it. It was the same thing. You saw the same thing and the same faults through this defense each time we got beat. Green Bay did it. And we talked a little bit before the show. You even said it. You said that you thought going in that game, Green Bay was going to beat us. So what was it that you saw about this defense in particular? Or you know, and what do you think maybe is the key pieces that we're missing to make this defense get over that hump and to be able to be solid all year long and not give up those, you know, go against those offenses and just get pounded?
Actually, it's 3 things. How you build a defense in the NFL. Take away the run. I'm going to say it one more time. Take away the run. 2, you have to be able to get out on 3rd down. 3, get somebody in your secondary that can cover.
No, we don't have cover guys? No. I thought it was our linebackers. I thought it was our lack of linebackers.
No, let me help you out.
Help me out.
If you are a team that plays man-to-man coverage
Yeah.
And you're going to get some picks because guess what? It's going to be some balls thrown.
Mm-hmm.
We can go all the way back to Diggs. Diggs has 11 picks. But he led in the same year that he had the 11 picks, he gave up a lot of yards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because guess what? This is a throwing league. They're throwing at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Guess what they wasn't throwing at is Dion.
Yeah. No, I mean, but that's only one Dion. There's no
They wasn't throwing at Kevin Smith.
But Dion would take away
They wasn't throwing at Larry Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Neil O'Donnell was throwing at him.
And kept what? And he kept playing catch with him. He kept playing catch with him too, though.
Now I will ask you this. No, so just kind of on that as far as the cover thing. Now, do you think that Diggs progressed because his next year after the 11 picks and the interceptions went down, but so did the yards, and obviously he was injured this year, not on the field, but it seemed like he did get more to a shutdown corner in terms of they weren't throwing his way a lot more. His third year versus his second year.
I would agree. I'm saying, and I would have loved to see his progression.
Yeah.
In a sense, but when I say secondary, your safety have to be able to cover.
Safeties.
Yeah.
Safeties.
You can put the thing is that you can put Darren Woodson on anyone.
He covered Jerry Rice, didn't he, when he was in the slot?
Hear me out.
Yeah.
You can put me on anyone. After 6 yards, our defense turned into a man-to-man coverage. That's why you see me come back hollering at my linemen because I only can cover so long. But my other dudes, you can put Kenny Gant, Larry Brown on anyone, Clayton Holmes, on anyone. Any of those dudes go down, it was next man up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And we didn't lose a beat. Third down is the most important down in football. And if you can't get out on third down, if you can't stop the run, no matter, and you saw it all year long.
Yeah.
Key situations where they couldn't get out on third down. Yep. They're thinking Parsons is going to get a sack you can't worry about that because guess what? He can't get there all the time. I've watched this man get double, triple block, and you telling me the other 3 linemen can't get to the quarterback?
Yeah.
How do you think Tony Tolbert, Leon Lett, Jones, Jeffcoat, Casillas, they was eating because guess what? It was 2 dudes blocking Charles Haley.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rest of the dudes got to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you they ain't that slow on Tuesday going to get their check.
And the funny thing is you bring up a good point is a lot of people have this misunderstanding like Charles Haley. Charles Haley definitely got the attention and the other guys benefited and they made these teams pay because Haley, he didn't have huge sack numbers. I was surprised. He didn't have huge sack numbers in Dallas. Tolbert, usually led the team in sacks a lot of times. And you had obviously Leon Lett and Casillas. I mean, we just had a rotation of guys, or you guys did, not me, but you had a rotation of guys in there. But that's what it was about. You don't really see that so much with this defense. So my question is I don't see the fire. Like you said, accountability. And I'm not in the locker room, so I'm just going to only speak from the sidelines.
And me neither. I'm not in that locker room, but go ahead.
But I've yet to see the fire on the sidelines, the accountability, the anything. I used to see Aikman get into the lineman's face or get in this. Hey guys, we got to get our what together.
Again, bro, it's like when you getting paid the kind of monies that they're getting paid, every dude Like, why are you talking to me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been to a couple practices, and I'm like, they don't respect the history. They think because they got drafted or they play on the star, they're already a star.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They get, man, and I'm gonna tell you, it's nothing like, and there's franchises, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Green Bay. But there's nothing like being a Dallas Cowboy. I played 30-something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can go to China. I can go to Berlin. I can go to, and we're talking about other countries we're not even talking about, and have on my gear. No, they don't know who James Washington is until they find out after a couple drinks, and then they come back, and next thing I ain't got to pay for nothing. Literally, that's how big the brand is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is kind of, I'm a movie guy, and I've had this conversation in my work life with as things change and you progress and but at the end of the day, like in my job, you have to have a mindset competitor. I'm in sales and this and that, and I came up from nothing and I had to fight for every dollar, fight for everything that I had. And they tell you, as to a point is, you got to change. You got to kind of do this. I go back to the Rocky lines. I love Rocky. And Apollo Creed is telling them, I don't want to change. You can't, we're warriors. And without no war to fight, the warrior may be dead. I don't care the money and everything that comes with it, but isn't there something inside? If you're a competitor, there's got to be something inside you that says, you know what, I'm not going to be embarrassed on the field. I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of underachieving. I don't care what I'm paying. I need to win. And I don't see that with this team. I
disagree with that one, though.
Okay.
I disagree with that one.
Okay.
And I say this. You can't say that Dak doesn't want to win.
Yeah.
Does he make bad decisions just like Lamar didn't show up? It doesn't not make him the MVP. People keep saying, let him go. And do what? Who are you bringing in there to replace that? Sometimes you just got to fine tune. You know what I mean? What I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think they have it right. I think they're a couple players away. You feel me?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think
I don't think.
But let me ask you this, James.
I hate to say this one.
Yeah.
Let the coaches coach. Let the coaches choose the players. Let ownership be ownership.
Yeah, never
The
going to
reason why you guys don't have, as Dallas fans, 6, 7, 8 Super Bowls. We all know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Sit your ass down, have a nice glass of wine, and enjoy what you build.
Mm-hmm.
You are the mastermind behind the greatest thing that ever happened to football. Let the people that you hire do what they do.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep, my life and my career could have been different if you just sit your ass down and stay out the way. That's real talk. I love him to death. I thanked him for the opportunity. But bro, it's a different kind of pressure. And it's a different kind of respect that your athletes have for the head coach when they feel, I'm going to tell you, in the 90's, there was only one power.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only one stick. And we know who that dog was that barked louder than all the dogs that was barking. And we had a lot of dogs that barked. But when that one dog barked, everybody was like looking around. And his name is Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I agree, and it's a hard thing because, right? I mean, Kelly loves Jerry. He does a perfect Jerry impression, and but he's great as an owner. But
it's a love-hate relationship.
But I get your point because I always say is if the players can bypass the coach and have a personal relationship with the owner, it kind of cuts the coach's legs from underneath as far as the respect. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's the case in Dallas, but it just doesn't seem the culture is what we always talk about. The culture of the team is there a culture issue because of the dynamics between the Joneses and kind of he made a comment that if they're talking about us, it's a good thing. And
that's
I'm tired of talking about it. I want to talk about it.
I know, but the fact is that you got to understand he is a mastermind in marketing.
Yeah.
He is in the business to sell the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You can't cut on the TV. You can't go to the internet. Good, bad, and different. They're talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Wrong or right?
Yeah.
No, I get it.
So now, watch this. Right. If you're selling ice cream and everybody is eating snow cones, guess what you want?
Yeah.
You're doing okay. You don't care what kind of ice cream it is. It can be soft serve, snow cones, big pops, banana sticks. It don't matter. Guess what? You're selling ice creams.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, and I mean, Jerry is like I've said this many times. I've said there's not a GM in football that would have been able to keep their job as long as Jerry's kept his job if Jerry wasn't the owner. If Jerry was a GM for any of these 31 other teams, he'd have been fired a long time ago. Because the thing is, it just seems like you get the same thing from him. I mean, when I say I have a love-hate relationship for Jerry Jones, it legitimately is that. But he's almost like that used car salesman that's telling you he's going to sell you that dream car, and he's telling you how great that dream car is. But what he don't tell you is that it's got some transmission codes that they just cleared out of that sucker right before you took it for a test drive.
Hey, he's selling you that car that came from New Orleans after the swamp.
After Katrina.
Telling you got all that under the hood rust,
Yeah, he ain't showing you that. He ain't showing you that, and that's what he does to us fans, and he gets his reel back in.
But he still sold you that car for over $20,000, though.
Yeah,
yep.
The beauty is that I just got my invoice from a season ticket license. They at least sign somebody. Make me feel good. You know what I mean? And I got to pay it before March 1st.
Right? Are you gonna lose your seats?
Exactly. So, but hey, James, we've had a great time, and I want to be respectful of your time. You're an hour in, but I'd be remiss to really talk about. I wanted to get a few moments of your Shelter 37 charity. You've had it since '93, and this is a thing that kind of upsets me with kind of the media, the NFL. They always kind of focus on if guys are doing bad or whatever, but I don't think they focus enough on the positive things that players like yourself have done for. I mean, you've done it long after your career, so I just wanted to get an opportunity to tell the fans about the great work that you're doing.
So I am the new president of the Rose Bowl Institute. So I handle all the community outreach that has to do with the Rose Bowl here in California. But my nonprofit I've had for 31 years, and I was a foster youth. I was a foster kid. So I not only have under Shelter 37, we do scholarships for community college here, but we also do free education programs for foster kids and at-risk kids, which I fall in that line of both. And I've been doing that for over 31 years.
Yeah.
We also have a program with Shelter 37 where we here in California for first-time buyers and veterans, they're able to come through our program when they're trying to get a home. And we take homes, clean them up, and the veterans and first-time buyers have the best opportunity to buy homes from me. So impacting people, and I tell you this, and I thank you for that, but impacting people, when it's all said and done, man, I wake up every day to impact one life. Because of my platform, you know, I'm able to do a great job, you know. So like with the Rose Bowl, it's going to be even greater. You're going to start hearing different things. I tried to stay low key, but my goal with the Rose Bowl and as the new president is teaching the world how to give. And teaching the world how to give is not writing a check. It's the time, the talent, and the treasure that I'm trying to teach the world to give. Because I'm going to tell you, I could have been one of your worst people in the world if I didn't meet my high school coach when I did. And he didn't write a check, but what he did, and this is to every person that's listening to your show, the time that he put into me allowed me to become a kid. It was 6 of us, my posse, my street group. 4 of my guys brutally murdered before the age of 21. The other guy ended up having a 25 to life stay. I'm the only dude to make it out.
Wow.
And since then, and since I've been able to, I try to impact a life, man. And it's not necessarily that you got to write a check or you make sure when you get an opportunity to help somebody that you know need help, reach out, do something to make his life better, make her life better. And that's what we do with Shelter 37 every day.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's
that's
awesome, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm saying, man. I mean, that is in my opinion, man. That's better than what you did on the field. I mean, and that's not to take away from what you did on the field, but I mean, making an impact in other people's lives outside of the realm of sports. And when people, go through that, and I mean, just it kind of hits home for me, man. I was, I was unfortunate not to have somebody like that in my life, and luckily, I had kids that kind of snapped me out and got me out of that kind of lifestyle. But I mean, I know a lot of people that weren't lucky, or that light never flipped on for them, and that they went another route. So it is very important in young kids' lives and people's lives, period, if you can make a positive impact. So I definitely salute you for doing that. And yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, bro, I want to say, you guys, to the Cowboy Cave, keep doing what you're doing. I'm a fan, and anytime you need me, I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a great time chatting with you. Obviously, if we just running it.
Yeah. I mean,
I supposed to have been somewhere a long time ago, and but I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, y'all need to get a little color to this stage, though. Make it better.
What's wrong with my stage?
Bro, I'm looking at all them damn pictures. I don't see me.
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. You're the only. I haven't spent,
I'm looking at all them pictures. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, you never signed for me. You never signed for me when I was a kid.
Now you know me now.
No,
there we go.
I was gonna ask if because I have a huge Cowboys cave. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I have a huge Cowboys cave, and I would be honored. And I was gonna ask you kindly, and I'd make a donation to your charity, of course, as well for that. And it would be awesome if I could have you, because you are the 90's guy. You're the only guy that I don't have. And I even have Mike Sherrard. I showed him.
Wow,
I
bro.
sent him a card when I
Hey,
was a little
wait.
kid.
Whoa, bro. You really hurt my feelings right
I,
there. Whoa.
but
Hey,
I'm
you
gonna
know
get
what
now. Were
though?
you?
But I have been on the low. I'm not really the social person.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
how I was when I was a player. As I got older, I've gotten worse. So
Well, we
no,
definitely. I want to
we're
do it
together
again. I
now
know
though.
we've overstayed our welcome, but I'm going to tell you
Yeah.
what the iconic picture, and I want to find it. And if I can, I'd love if I can send it to you. It's you that video when you blew the kiss. I mean, that is my most
Yeah.
favorite this
Yep.
moment.
You
Uh,
find it. I think I probably have one, but you find it. I'll sign it and
yeah.
ship it back to you.
No,
All
I
right.
appreciate it. I
Okay.
appreciate it. And thank you so much, Mr. Washington. It was just an awesome time
Absolutely.
to have
Hey,
you in the
call
cave.
me
And
J-Dub, bro. Not
yeah,
Mr. Washington. You make me
yeah,
sound like I'm your daddy or something.
I know. All right. James, it was awesome to have you in the cave, man. I appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right.
And hopefully we'll
Thanks
talk
a
to you
lot.
soon. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a
All right.
lot,
Y'all have
James.
a good one, boss.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Take
You
care.
too.
All right. We'll see you. Yeah, that was, I mean, awesome. Awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, what an amazing, what amazing stories
Player,
and just
person,
going
interview,
back.
everything. All of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just you couldn't ask. I hope everyone really, enjoyed that, just kind of trip down memory lane and just
Well,
the
yeah. I
amazing
mean,
stories. But there was so much more we get into. We got to have him on again. I don't know.
I know, when he talked about the short temper, I know you had mentioned it just for a second. We didn't get to ask him, but the man picked up a monopod one time. For those that don't know, he picked up a cameraman's stand one time when his teammates were getting in a scuffle on the sideline going into halftime of Giants game back in '94. He runs over to the sideline. There's punches being thrown. It's a melee. There's only a couple of Cowboys over there. Mike Irvin and him run over there. He grabs the monopod from the cameraman like he's about to use it as a weapon. Now, he didn't smack nobody with it, but I tell you what, that's not a guy I would want to piss off, man. I mean, he was making hits on the field. He was about to make one off the
Well,
field.
and again, we didn't get a lot into it, but it's so hard. He was, I mean, the stories you just wanted him to just keep talking because he was, I mean, he was just telling the phenomenal stories. But I wanted to ask, and he kind of said it. The interesting thing and really the unselfishness, what he talked about, people forget that 93 season, Darren Woodson did take his job, and he
He
was a
did.
backup, but he came in obviously in different packages. And that was the Super Bowl where he ended up being, arguably the Super Bowl MVP. But he could have moaned, he could have, cried about it, caused a stink, but he was a team guy and he's sitting there teaching his replacement everything he knows, knowing that at some point he's going to take his job. And then he ends up in 94, he gets the job back. Thomas Everett, they move on from him, and then it's him and Darren Woodson lined up in safety, and
Yep.
he ends up having his best season. But it's just the I don't know if you saw it, Kelly, but you can when we talk to Moose, we've talked to Campo, we've talked to people in the 90s, and we're gonna have some more definitely coming up soon. They all have that little hurt. And Irvin talks about it too more on national media of what could have been. Like they feel cheated of the
Yeah.
opportunity to
Because
really, they
Jimmy.
could have made just history with that team in the 90s had Jerry and Jimmy, or Jerry, however way you want to look at it, just God, just
Well, and what I found interesting about what James said, and I feel like some people were just a little bit more open with their opinions about things. I think Moose, obviously, still a lot of close ties to the Cowboys. He's got to some of these guys got to be cognizant about what they say. Mike Irvin, guys that are there with Jerry a lot. Obviously, don't want to rub on. I thought what he said though was a lot of truth in the things where he talked about if Jerry would just sit his ass back and understand that he has built something special. Because he has. It's the most valuable franchise in all of sports, not just football, all of sports, right? Just sit your ass back, understand you built something special, and put a football person, GM, whether that be Will McClay that you decide to promote him into, but Jerry still has too much fingers in the pie, so to
yeah.
speak. And I thought that was very interesting of kind of how he sees that. Now, because I think there's a lot of us fans that have kind of seen that and said, hey, you know what? It is that. And a lot of people are like, well, no, the players got to play. Jerry don't catch passes. Jerry don't do this. But Jerry's the one constant in this whole thing. And I continue to say, if a GM has went this long without winning it and without even getting past the divisional round, then that GM's going to be gone. Jerry is only still the GM because he's also the owner.
Yeah.
And that's the only franchise in all of sports that has something like that has a GM/owner that just continually runs the franchise and cannot get over the hump.
Yeah.
So it's discouraging to hear it, just to hear that, but it's also kind of also comforting to hear somebody else that has been a player that's been in the organization also echo that sentiment that some of us amongst Cowboys Nation have.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, and we'll segue into maybe some current things with the Cowboys. We get an opportunity to get Kelly in the house and myself. We got to maybe talk a little State of the Union. But you said something interesting. It kind of, I'll be honest with you, it kind of hurt me. It kind of hurt me when you said how difficult you're having a time getting over this and trying to get some hope. And I'm with you, believe me. And it's when you get the Cowboy fans, and I mean, I know there's fans that are as passionate as we are and maybe more or whatever, but when you get this core fan, these guys have been kind of standing by you through all the years and everything, and you've got a defeatist mind in them. I mean, it's a low point in Cowboys Nation and Cowboys, to see what can this team do to get you over the hump. It's like I jokingly was telling you, it's like my hype videos. Am I going to get clowned for trying to hype up the team? Is it, it is like, man, hyping up Cowboys Nation? Or are they going to say, hey, dude, you need to just chill out because I'm just going to wait till the playoffs? Because that's ultimately all that matters with this team at this point, especially if they don't make any changes to give you hope. It's like, how are you going to do this? So now you saw, I'm segueing into Dan Quinn. So everything was waffling, and I don't know if it was a good thing or bad, but it dragged itself out so long. Obviously, maybe some guys that maybe they looked at are gone, but Dan Quinn is now the coach of the Washington Commanders. So we've got a defensive coordinator position open. I mean, one, what is your initial thoughts when you see that he's gone? Two, where do the Cowboys go from here? James, James Washington, the great safety in the team of the 90s, was on our show. Obviously, if you guys heard it, and he was talking about a 3-4, and I kind of mentioned it either to you or someone else in passing. I'm not a defensive scheme guy, so I don't know what impact that would have on today's game, running a 3-4, and how prevalent that is in today's game. I was trying to think back of some teams, but I mean, what's your thoughts, and in the chat if you got any as well?
Well, I think it kind of puts Micah Parsons in a better position. If you're going to have him as a guy which rushing the passer, I think that puts him in a better position. It gives you it puts a little less wear and tear on his body, in my opinion. Being able to rush from that from a 3-4 and having that outside linebacker where he's coming from the outside and he's your guy that's blitzing and coming in. I think that's one thing. But two, with the Cowboys and the Dan Quinn situation, what confused me is that Dan Quinn's getting all these head coaching position offer, taking these interviews and everything. And the Cowboys are maintaining the stance that, okay, we'll bring him back if he doesn't get a head coaching job. But in my opinion, that was stupid. Like, if you either part ways with him or you don't. Like, and after that Green Bay game and after seeing some of the things that we saw and some of the flaws within this defense throughout the season, I just figured you'd have been best off cutting ties with him, because you're seeing all these good defensive coordinators get snagged up by all these other teams. So now you're sitting here as the Cowboys, and what do you really have? And my only thought is maybe there's a guy in-house that they like, who they want to promote to they're going to promote that guy, and he's going to be their next. I've heard of Al Harris. They've talked about Al Harris. Now, where I want to pump the brakes on him, though, is, do I like Al Harris? Yes, I do. But I remember when there was a big portion of Cowboys Nation screaming for Chris Richard, and the dude's not even coaching in the NFL anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, and he never ended up being a defensive coordinator. He moved on somewhere else and coached with somebody else, but he wasn't even a coach this year.
Yeah, I think he's in college or not even coaching, yeah.
Yeah, and so I would caution against people because I feel like right now that there's a certain portion of us that we see a guy get passionate and he's yelling and and this and that, but that don't equate into being a good coach.
Yeah.
Yelling and being and this and that don't equate into being a good coach. So I want a guy that's got a proven track record or a guy that you feel like can command this defense. And me personally, man, I'd love the Cowboys to at least bring him in for an interview. Would be Mike Vrabel. And the reason why I say that, he only coached, he's got defensive background coach. He only was a defense coordinator 1 year in Houston. That defense wasn't great, albeit, but he was only there for 1 year before he got promoted to the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Now, with what he did with the Tennessee Titans, they had pretty good defenses along the way. They weren't too bad. In fact, this year their run defense was better than our run defense by, I think, 3 positions. Red zone defense was number 1 in the NFL. But Vrabel just has that toughness about him, right? He's a former Patriot.
He's a winner.
Those guys know what it takes to win. So I like a guy like that because I feel like he gives us a good chance to win. And I also like him as a head coach. Yeah. I don't think Tennessee did him any favors in terms of the personnel that they brought for him or provided, shipping A.J. Brown out of town. I don't think that helped his ass out. Never had a quarterback. I think you put Vrabel in as the defensive coordinator and you got Mike McCarthy on this lame duck coach deal, 1 year type deal. If Mike McCarthy don't work out, then if things go good with Vrabel this year as a defensive coordinator, you give him the head coaching job because I do think he is a man who can inspire others. And I think that the players will follow and they will respect him because, like you said, he's a winner, comes from a winning background, and he wins. And somebody said today, they said, well, what did he ever do at Tennessee? Well, he made it to an AFC championship game.
Yeah.
He made it his second year, his second season, made it to an AFC championship game. I mean, Mike McCarthy hasn't got us out of a divisional round. So, I mean, if you're going to sit there and point fingers and say this is this or that or whatever, like I like Vrabel. And for me personally, that's my choice to bring in as our DC.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more on Vrabel because, I mean, what you're getting is champion. He's been there, done that. And I hear a lot of this and I don't know. I think you tweeted something and someone commented, I was working. I didn't get a chance, but I wanted to give this an answer. Someone said, well, who wants to come here be a DC with a lame duck coach for 1 year? Well, let me tell you who. A guy who may want the opportunity to be the coach of the team if the guy's gone in a year. So that's
right.
I don't think just because McCarthy's on a 1 year deal, because I think whoever's coming in understands that. McCarthy understands he's going to have to do something to get it. So if I'm Vrabel, and he doesn't have a head coaching job this year, the jobs are all filled. So he's going to be a DC somewhere. And I think you have to change it up. Nothing against Al Harris. Phenomenal job, with the secondary. And maybe he's there. But what I don't want is an unknown, right? He's never been a defensive coordinator. Maybe he turns in, maybe he ends up being DeMeco Ryans or one of these other coordinators and just absolutely kills it in his first year. I don't know. But what I'm sick of is the I don't know. Like we brought Tony Pollard, got rid of Zeke. I don't know if he could be the number 1, but we're going to find out. And we found out it wasn't. We're going to put 220-pound guys from there were our safeties at linebacker. I don't know if it's going to work, but I don't have time for I don't knows anymore.
No.
When Jerry talks the BS about all in, which we could talk about that too. We need to see. I want knowns. I want you to get linebackers that been there, done that. I want a running back that I can count on that I know's been there. If you want to draft one, great. But I'm sick of the Cowboys always putting their hopes on their draft pick. Trade away Amari Cooper, draft Tolbert, because maybe Tolbert's going to replace him easily. If he doesn't, what happens? And they did it. They've done it over and over in certain positions, and it puts all the pressure on these rookies to succeed and hit home runs. And you see in the draft, time will tell. I don't want to sit there and say they were all bust or whatever, but we didn't get the return on the draft immediate impact, and that hurt the team in depth, and it hurt them in the area that they were going to fill, defensive tackle, right? And Mozzie, he didn't have a Pro Bowl year that you're going to need from a guy that you're expecting to make an instant impact. I'm not putting undue pressure on him. I'm saying, but that's what they expect out of these guys, and it's not going to happen right away for everyone.
No, exactly. And that's the thing too. I just, they need to add some pieces to this defense, obviously, because I don't think as constructed, I don't think we we're not an elite defense. And I think, I see what David said, it's a personnel issue, not a DC issue. I don't necessarily think that, because I do think Dan Quinn's philosophy has things to do with it, because Dan Quinn likes these smaller hybrid linebackers for whatever reason. That's a Dan Quinn thing. That's not a personnel thing. That's a Dan Quinn thing. Now, granted, LV went down, Overshown got injured, but Overshown's still a rookie who hasn't proven anything. So we're still going into the season not investing into, that linebacker position. And listen, Dan Quinn also was the guy pounding the table for Mozzie Smith. Okay, let's not forget that. Let's not forget that Dan Quinn was a guy who has drafted somebody. He was the Sam Williams pick. Sam Williams, it really hasn't panned out. Dan Quinn, they let Dan Quinn have a say in the defensive person. We know this because we've seen it, we've heard it, we saw it. The Mozzie Smith thing, I remember that. Sam Williams. There were several of these defensive players that he has drafted. Now, I will say he's gotten some good ones, DBs and otherwise or whatever. But Dan Quinn has had his say. So he gets to accept it when there's successes, but he's also got to own the failures. Obviously, he's moved on to Washington. But my whole thing is this. I don't think that Dallas defense is that far off. I think that if Jerry truly wants to go all in and he really wants to go, there's some guys out there that can be had. Me personally, one of the first calls I'm making as soon as free agency starts is to the linebacker from Tampa Bay.
David,
Levante David.
You got Levante David. Yeah.
I'm calling him immediately. Soon as free agency, 12:01 midnight, I'm on the phone with them and tell them what kind of money it would take to get you here in Dallas. And I'm bringing him into Dallas. Like, if you want to be all in, you start bringing in these pieces. And if you start making those moves, those are the kind of moves that are going to bring me back. Those are the kind of moves that are going to get me feeling optimistic about this team. Because I think, James made a good point. Obviously, I was very critical of Dak. I was pissed off at Dak. I still think that he has, more often than not, played poorly in the playoffs. And that really upsets me. Because I want my star quarterback, my franchise guy, the guy that we pay the most to be the leader, to take the reins of this team and say, I will not allow us to lose. I don't care what happens, because you've seen other quarterbacks do it. And I'm not saying you don't have to have a great team, but you've seen other quarterbacks take the reins when their defense plays bad and say, what, this is on me. This is on me. And you haven't seen that with Dak yet in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
In regular season games, but not in the playoffs. So I don't think the answer is getting rid of Dak. I think you've got to bring him back. I think he gives us the best chance to win. But the thing is, the culture, the philosophy, and some key players, adding some players to that defense, we got to do those things. So can we get there? Yes. I mean, I'm a huge optimistic guy, but it's going to take some big changes for me to get on board.
Yeah. I think it's
the defensive coordinator.
I think it's running back and linebacker, the two areas for me. And I'll say this, because, to the comment, just to piggyback off what you said, and maybe just kind of add more to it about Dan Quinn. I mean, Dan Quinn was the one, and James Washington, if you heard the interview, he's the one who said it. We were thinking it. We've talked about it. I didn't even have to say it. He's the one who said that he got out schemed. He's the one who said he changed what he was doing. They went to zone. They weren't rushing Micah Parsons. They were dropping him back in coverage on third down and doing everything like that. So that's the thing that you got to remember too. And look at the games. It's like Kelly said. Interesting thing with Dan Quinn, the coordinators he had. I always want to call him McDonald, but McDaniel from Miami on his staff. He had Shanahan on his staff. Yep. He had the guy from Green Bay, LaFleur. Is it Matt LaFleur? Yeah, on his staff. He's never beaten any of them. 0-6. I wish I would have had that stat before the playoff game. Maybe I wouldn't have been so blinded by it. But he's never beaten guys who know his defense, but he knows their damn offense. I mean, they coached under him, and he can't out-scheme them. They're out-scheming him. And those were bad losses. Let's think about it. I mean, think about those losses. Bad losses, except for the Miami one. Okay, you want to say that's close, but blown out against San Francisco. Embarrassed against Green Bay. So those are the things I think about. So I think it's time for a change. I think you had to change something. If you weren't changing the head coach, you had to change something. And defensive coordinator was the next thing that there was some questions. So I'm hopeful they do it. Now I'm going to flip this to you, Kelly. The name that obviously circulates in the media and all over, Ron Rivera, just got to let go. Washington defensive coordinator. Obviously, I'll say this. I mean, he was part of probably the greatest defense in the history of NFL. He's a defensive-minded guy, but is it just kind of like we need some new juice in here? This is kind of, retread, stale. What do you say?
It's gonna take me. I don't know. It would take me a lot to get on board with Rivera. I know that head coaches, because Dan Quinn's a perfect example, that head coaches that are defensive minded don't necessarily do the great at being head coaches. But Washington's defense this year was dead last in passing, dead last in running, dead last. They were at the bottom of the league in almost every category that you can imagine. And it's hard for me to look at Ron Rivera and just think that he can come in and he can fix that, because when he was in Carolina, I mean, their deep before he left from Carolina, I mean, they had some solid defenses, but towards the end of it, I mean, there was a reason why the change was made. And I don't know. Me personally, I'm just not a Ron Rivera fan.
Yeah.
As far as being our defensive coordinator. I'm just not. I don't. And you know what? I could be completely wrong, man. I know Ron.
I have to look into. He had two
I don't
stints.
wanna.
He had 2 stints as a defensive coordinator with the Bears in 2004 to 2006, and then he was with the Chargers as defensive coordinator 2008 to 2010. Then obviously became the head coach of the Panthers. So I don't know how. I mean, he was a Philadelphia Eagle linebackers coach in the 99 to 2003. He was obviously with the Bears for a couple years. I think that's where he started as a coach, kind of getting his feet wet with it. So I don't know. I mean, it's not going to make a backflip.
I just feel like since the last time he's been the defensive coordinator, a lot has changed. And I do just feel like, and it's not necessarily that I don't think that these coaches that are older coaches that have been around for a long time, that I don't think that they can. But it's kind of like the whole knock on Mike McCarthy, like, about the whole, can he change analytics? Can he really change? Can he be this new? And you see him do it with the offense this year, because I do have to get credit to Mike McCarthy. I thought what he did with his offense was great. But you know what? In the end, you go into that Green Bay game, and it was like Mike McCarthy reverted. And I just don't know that Ron Rivera is a guy who I trust to come in with, I don't know. I don't see him coming in and commanding the respect of the players on this team. I just don't. Not after how things went in Washington, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
The Commanders were a mess the past couple of years, and I just feel like that you have a guy you either need to have some new blood, a guy that these players respect, or a guy that's a proven winner. And in my opinion, the only guy out there that's a proven winner right now that we can bring in is Mike Vrabel.
Yeah,
so that's really the name that I'm locked in on. Obviously I don't have a choice, and I hear Rivera's coming in for an interview.
Have you heard Vrabel? Have they mentioned his name at all, or no?
I don't think they've mentioned. I haven't heard Mike Vrabel's name get mentioned yet. I have heard Ron Rivera. I believe he's coming into Dallas, and they're going to sit down and talk with him. So I am hoping that they don't already have their sights zeroed in, and that's the guy that they've locked in on. But if they do, they do. I don't run the team.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. No, that I'm with you. I just, I need to see it more, but I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction to him. But I definitely think this team needs some juice. I mean, and I would say this on McCarthy, and I don't know your opinion on it. Obviously, there was a lot of talk. Oh, the Cowboys, what are they going to do now? They got rid of Kellen Moore, and I thought McCarthy, Dak had his best year under McCarthy for what it's worth. Of course, the playoff disappointment, that not included. And CeeDee Lamb had an amazing year. the thing to me was the running game. So do you think, because Mike, he always likes to run the ball, and he always talked about running the ball, but he kind of I think he gave up on it a lot because we weren't doing anything. Do you think he had anything to do with the Cowboys not? I mean, where do you put the blame on the running game? Do you put it on the coach? Do you put it on the GM? Do you put it, do you put it on the offensive line? There's been so many, different things, but the running game was ultimately, to me, and we talked about it. We said it's gonna bite him in the ass, and I think I just believe it. It bit him in the ass in the playoffs. What's your thoughts on the running game and where it's at?
I don't know if it was just a false belief that that they could trust Tony Pollard to be the lead back, and maybe they fooled themselves into thinking that. Because the thing about that was that he didn't. Tony Pollard was never the lead back, even when he was in college.
College, he wasn't. No.
So I don't know. We talked about it in the offseason. Me and you talked about the fact that we thought it was a bad idea that there was not another running back in here, that there wasn't a complimentary back. And I really don't. I don't know if that was a McCarthy thing or a Jerry Jones thing. As soon as they franchise tag Pollard, though, you pretty much knew he was going to be the starting running back, giving him that money. But, they never really looked anywhere else. And it was one of those things where I don't know if they just thought that there weren't running backs to be had in the draft or what it was, but either way, it was a failure. And I feel like that they should have known this in the preseason, or at least in practice, maybe had an idea that, hey, you know what? The running game's lacking, and they never did anything. They never went to address it. And even when the trade deadline was around, they had opportunities. They were saying Dallas just needs a running back. You had your
Fournette, you had Cook,
even the national media was sitting there talking about, hey, Dallas needs a running back. That's what they're missing. And we heard James Washington say it tonight. He said they're missing a running game. So, I mean, we can all see it. They can all see it. I mean, surely Mike McCarthy can see it. And I would hate to think that Jerry Jones really has Mike McCarthy's legs cut out from under him that bad that he doesn't allow him to make his own personnel decisions and say, hey, Jerry, dude, we need a running back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's definitely one of those moves, though, that needs to be made, whether it's in the draft and honestly, I don't think it should be in the draft. I think they need a proven running back. I don't think they can.
You need to have a proven guy. You can draft one, but you got to get a proven guy. And hey, Kelly, let's just run through some good things in the chat. Appreciate everything. So just zip through a couple things. Edgar said there's some tweets going around saying Vrabel will be in Dallas to interview. Hopefully that is true. David Wyatt, thoughts on Al Harris? I know we kind of mentioned it. Well, let's just we can give a quick response to that. And this is one I'm hearing. They're saying Mike Zimmer is interested also. I mean, geez, got to talk about going back to the well. He was a great defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, but I mean, that was 15 plus years ago or whatever it's been.
Right.
What's your thoughts again on Al Harris? Just kind of for the people just joining. I know you kind of touched on it.
I like Al Harris. I do like I think that he's a good defensive coach. My whole thing is, though, that I don't think we can gamble this. I don't think this is the year to gamble on a guy that's unproven.
Yeah. And that's how I agree.
If you're going all in, does hiring an unproven defensive coordinator, is that the best? I mean, if I am playing a poker hand and I say I'm going all in, well, I'm not going in with a pair. I want to make sure my shit's lined up. If I'm going all in, I've got a straight, I've got a flush. I'm not bluffing. I feel like if you say you're going all in and Al Harris is your choice as defensive coordinator, I feel like that you're bluffing.
Yeah.
And you're selling me fool's gold. So it's not a knock on Harris. If this team was in a different position, if this team had just maybe made it to an NFC championship game and, the defense was our weak spot all year. And it was like, you know what, we got to fix the defense. If we can fix the defense, this team is Super Bowl bound, but I don't think that's the key. I don't think that's what it is. I think this defense kind of needs an overhaul. I wouldn't disagree with moving to a 3-4. And I don't think that that's his. I don't think that you want to trust a new defensive coordinator that's never done it, switching over defensive systems and then trusting him to install that new system.
Yeah.
I just, I don't
No,
think
I'm
that's
with
a
you.
good idea.
I'm with you. And so you're looking at the draft. I mean, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that. We'll get some guys in here, some draft experts. I mean, I'll admit, I know my ACC and SEC guys, but I am by no means a draft guru. I'm not studying who played at BYU or Texas Christian University or all these different things. But what's your thoughts just instantly needs, not players, you don't have to say, but positions? Do you think we got to go just all defense? Do you think it needs to be balanced? Do you think, I mean, do we need impact guys, depth guys? I mean, what's your first thoughts on defense? What are you going at, or on the draft? What are you going after quickly?
Linebacker is probably first on my list, to be honest with you. I think linebacker, the offensive line didn't fare too bad this year. They weren't bad. Offensive line is also another area. It's never too early to start planning a contingency plan. I mean, we don't really have, I don't know what their plan is for the future going forward, but I think Tyler Smith should stay at guard.
Yeah.
I'm against moving him to tackle. Before last year, I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe we can move him to tackle and draft a guy for. No, I think Tyler Smith is set. I think he's a left guard of the future for the next 10 years, but I don't think it's too late that we start planning, our replacement for Martin. I think we could use a center. Biadasz didn't do bad, but I think we could use a center. I think we should draft one. I would right tackle Terrence Steele. I mean, I know he got that contract, but he played like absolute ass this year.
Yeah.
I have no idea what their plan is with him. If they think he can bounce back, if it's just a bad year, he's still bouncing back from that knee injury. I don't know, but I think we could definitely use offensive line. I think we need depth there. I think they need to plan for contingencies for Martin. For Steele, get at center, and Tyron Smith at left tackle. So you've got several positions along the offensive line that could be filled. Obviously, linebacker, like I said, defensive tackle is another spot. I know we just drafted Mozzie Smith last year, and there's going to be people that say, well, it's too early to give up on him. Maybe that's an area we can go out and get a proven guy in free agency.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe that's a guy we can get there where we don't have to draft, because that is a tricky area, drafting a defensive tackle that you expect to come in year one and be a force. I mean, look no further than the guy from the Eagles. Was it Carter?
Yeah.
They got him. He was supposed to be a world beater. Now, he had a decent season, but I mean, was he that big of an impact on that defense? No. Did he replace the guy that they lost in Hargraves that went to San Francisco? No, he didn't replace that production. Not even close to it. I mean, he didn't even get a quarter of that production replaced. Yeah. So putting all your stock in rookies is a dangerous game. With rookies, what you're looking for is obviously to hit on a couple and maybe have one guy that comes in as immediate impact. That's usually your first round guy, which I think linebacker or offensive line is your best opportunity to have that happen, right away and address a position of weakness.
Yeah.
So for me, it's either linebacker or offensive line.
Yeah. And I think one other one, James Washington, he had said something that was kind of interesting, because he was talking about our secondary. I was kind of surprised. I don't know if you were. I was a little surprised. He had some stuff to say, and it made me think. And my son is he loves college, and he put this out there. Some people liked it, some people really hated it. But Miami has a guy, Cam Kitchens, and he is a ball hawk. He's a hitter. He's a great athlete at Miami, and he's going to be at the Senior Bowl. He was out there practicing, and he was doing some good things. I don't know, they got him projected in the first round. So I don't know if you're going to take a safety in the first round, if you're the Cowboys, but if he were to fall or something happens, you can never have, and what I say is he's got some attitude to him. I'm not going to call him Ed Reed, but obviously he played Miami. So you get but he has that swag. And I think some things that this team is lacking is a little bit of swag, and
yeah.
Playmakers. You can never have, like Michael Irvin always say, never have enough playmakers on your team. So I think the Cowboys, they really they need to get some guys that can make some impact plays. I mean, you look at like Deron Bland. I mean, you could say what you want. Yeah, he gets beat sometimes and this and that, but I mean, turnovers are huge, and he has a knack for the ball. And when he gets the ball,
Yeah.
he has a knack to take it to the house. I mean, you can't. I mean, I'll trade that for him getting beat on a 20-yard pass, any day of the week. You know what I mean? So
Well,
I think the
what
Cowboys really, and they can address it in free agency or whatever, but what they got to get some dogs, and they got to get some guys that all they care about is winning. Like our man Eugene Lockhart, always said, hungry. I mean, they're not worried about he said the women and the girls. We'll let them have that if they want, but they just all they want to do is win, and I think that's what's missing. I don't know what show it was on, but they were talking about the Cowboys, and they said the problem with the Cowboys is you got 53 brands on your team. And James
Yeah.
Washington kind of like says, he talked about it a little bit. He
Yeah.
said that being a Cowboy is a special thing and how he gets recognized. And, he's still, talked about and looked at and everything because he's a Cowboy. If you want a Cowboy, maybe so, maybe not. But he had said with that, those players still, they held each other accountable. If he missed
Yeah.
a tackle, the players were getting in their face. And I don't see that on this team. I don't see leadership to that point where you're getting someone, holding each other accountable. But now, again, I'm not in the locker room, but whatever they draft, they got to get guys with some DNA of that to me.
Yeah. I agree. And, I like what he said. It was actually before the show. But what he talked when he was talking, kind of making those things about the brands or whatever. And what he talked about was he said, just imagine what this team could accomplish if they came together and there were no individuals on this team. He said there's 53 eyes. He talked about how there's 53 individuals, right? 53 eyes, like they're all about me. But how that's a big brand, right? The Dallas Cowboys big brand, but imagine what that can do for your brand if you all come together and y'all win a Super Bowl. I mean, winning a Super Bowl in Dallas, especially after having a drought this long, even if you were just like a role player guy, even if you're just a role player, that's something that carries you not only throughout your career in football, but after football as well. You're talking about taking guys who, again, like I say, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a star.
Look at Kenny Gant. We're working on getting him on the show. But Kelly, think about Kenny Gant. What did he make a name for himself with special teams? He had some plays, in the Super Bowl and this and that. It's been 30 years. Go to a tailgate every game. He's there signing autographs, taking pictures with fans, showing the ring. And again, like James Washington said, I mean, there was guys on this team that were just good role players that contributed, that were important to the team, but they weren't the superstars. But to your point, I mean, in Dallas, it'll go a long way. You win a Super Bowl championship.
Absolutely, it will, man. And I just, I feel like, honestly, something that the Cowboys should do, because this is something we've heard now from multiple players that have come on the show. Multiple players have talked about this during the show, before the show, have talked about blazing their own trail to become something to separate themselves from those dynasties of the old, right? These 90s guys that we've talked to all talked about it. We wanted to separate ourselves from the 70s dynasty. We wanted to build our own, right? And I think that during their training camp, whatever, their off season, their training camp, they should have a period of time where every player on that roster, they should bring in some of the players from the 70s and they should bring in some of the players from the 90s. And I don't think it needs to be the stars like Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith. I think it needs to be these guys that are bring in a James Washington, bring in, a Gant, bring in a guy, guys that were part of building a winning culture and understood that it was bigger than themselves. It was about the team, and really just pound in the history to these dudes, because I agree with him. I don't think that this current roster and these Cowboys, I don't think that they look back at the history, and I don't think they know what it means to wear the star, and I don't think that they have that pride. I don't know if they still do it, but I remember back in the, I think it was when Parcells was the coach. Remember when they didn't even get a star on their helmet?
Yeah.
They had to earn it.
They had to earn it.
That's the kind of mentality that you need amongst this entire team. Like, you don't get to just wear this star. We do as fans because we pay for it. We buy this. But, like, you're going to be on this team and you're going to represent this franchise and this organization. You're going to earn that. It ain't going to be just given to you because you signed a contract and you're employed by the Dallas. No, you're going to earn the star because it means something. Yeah. And just literally ingrain that shit in these guys, man, because how are you going to be part of one of the greatest franchises in all of sports and then not understand how important it is to go out there and do your job every day, to play with pride and to hold people next to you accountable? The man to your left, the man to your right. Hold these dudes accountable. And they're, like you said, you just don't see it, and it's frustrating because we've seen it on the field. We've seen what it takes. And these players that we bring in to interview, they had what it takes.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn. 2024 Cowboys, it's your turn. How are you going to blaze your trail and separate yourselves from the pack and show that you guys belong and rewrite the books and put yourselves into the history books and earn that, earn that history and earn that, legendary status? Because we're waiting. We're there.
James Washington, and the show and Cuts is already, I think he's ready to make it. The motto is know your role. Know your role and know your role on the team. And I think that's what not everyone can be the star. You got to have guys that are going to be your dogs. You got, like he said, you had your Aikmans, Emmets, and Irvins, but the championships were won on the backs of the Leon Letts, the Jimmy Jones, the Tony Tolberts, a forgotten Cowboy. I mean, people forget. Go look him up if you guys forgot about him. He was double-digit sacks. He was really one of the better pass rushers and, for the Cowboys in that era. Again, another forgotten guy, but you had so many people on that team in the night. And it goes that way with the 70s too. We don't need 53 superstars. So know your role. I mean, I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we'll see, man. It's going to take, I feel like we know what it takes, and we know what we expect, and we know the standards that we are holding these players to. And I don't think that by any stretch of the imagination that any of these fans are out of line by being upset at what they saw on the field versus Green Bay and how the season ended. I think they should be upset. I think we as fans earn the right to hold these people to a higher standard. I know a lot of these people are like, well, you know what? Y'all don't write their paychecks. No, you're damn right we don't line their paychecks, but we sure as hell line Jerry Jones' pocket, and he's the one that's lining the paychecks. I mean, you pay how much money for your season tickets every year, your dues that you got to pay. I know how many other Cowboys season ticket holders, all the merchandise we buy, all the money we spend traveling, like we're invested into this team just like anybody else, man. We've got money, we've got time, we've got, all of this that we do for, the bringing in and talking to them. We invest into this team.
Yeah.
So you had a right to be disappointed and to hold these players to a higher standard. I just want to see these players feel the same passion that we do.
No,
that's all I want.
It made me think, if you know me long enough, I love movie lines. It made me think of Vacation. When Chevy Chase, they went all the way to Wally World and it's closed, and it's like, he owes us. We buy his merch, we support his shows. He owes us. And Jerry Jones owes the fans. And when he said all in, it pissed me off. He owes us to be all in every single year. If they're not all in to win a championship, then they shouldn't be in this business. And that was a disheartening. I know people wanted something. And you coined it before you even said it, because you got the inner Jerry in you. You knew he was going to be selling this BS to us. But that, to me, pissed me off more than anything else, is like, all in. Don't freaking tell me after we just got embarrassed, now you want to be all in. Should have been that way 30 years ago, every year.
Yeah.
So.
And two weeks ago, man, I did the Jerry skit, and I called it, man. Everybody was sitting there laughing at it like it's a joke, it's ludicrous. And I'm sitting there in my mind thinking to myself, this is Jerry's line of thinking. It's a sensationalist line to say to your fan base to try to reel them in and to try to make them think that things are going to be different, when in fact you have shown for the last 28 years now, going on 29, that you just say things to say things.
Yep.
You just talk to talk. Your talk has no action to it. Like I need to see action with those words. Without it,
yeah.
man,
And I can tell you, the fans didn't buy it. You know, I don't. If he was trying to get the fans to get any kind of hope or to get hyped up, I mean, it didn't work because I didn't really see much from the fans.
Didn't work
And
for me.
so we'll see. But hey, we've been going for a long time. We kind of did 2 shows. I told Kelly, I said we're gonna break it up, and I thought we'd end it, but you know, we had a good time with James Washington. I figured, yeah, we're on. You saw I changed the background. I honestly, with James Washington, when he said you need to add some color to your wall, I thought he was making fun of, because I had everything all gray, and I didn't catch that he noticed he wasn't on that wall. And I will get James Washington. He's one of my favorites, but he never was I don't like to say approachable, but he was a very quiet guy. So he never did a lot of the public things that gave me the opportunity to meet some of these guys, but he was awesome. If you guys missed the interview, go back and watch it. If you're watching this segment, definitely check out James Washington. But more importantly, we're getting closer. We're over 2,500 plus subscribers. So we're getting ever so close. We got the man who was Mr. Cowboy was in our cave. He was kind enough to sign a couple Funko Pops. One of them I'm keeping. One I'm going to give away. We're going to give it away in the cave when we hit 3,000 subscribers. And I know Kelly talked about those tickets. I don't know if anyone wants to go anymore to the Cowboys games. I'm still going to go. But when we hit 5,000 subscribers, we have 2 tickets, club level, your boys' seats. You could take me if you feel bad for me. Take Kelly if you want to show him love. Or you could tell us both to go to hell and take whoever the hell you want. So it's going to be your choice. But we've got some more interviews. We're going to do something for the Super Bowl. I am going to be, unfortunately, in Oregon next Thursday. So, Kelly, we're going to have to find you a pinch hitter or you go solo, but we'll figure it out. But after that, we've got, I'm trying to get locked in Sherman Williams, former Cowboy, Super Bowl 30. So another Super Bowl guy with a ring, but he's got more of an interesting story. I know there was a couple comments and he's not shy about it. He's wrote 3 volumes in his book, Crimson Cowboy. Obviously he ran into some tough times after the game, served 15 years in prison, came out and has turned his life around to make it a positive thing, impacting kids and trying to make sure they don't go down the path of making the mistakes that he made after football. So going to work on him. And then we've got some more 90s stuff coming up. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But what else did I miss, Kelly?
No, I think you covered it all, man. We're just going to keep trying to push this Cowboys content out to you guys, man. It's a long off season. We got a lot of things in front of us. It's going to be it all starts, the dominoes start to fall in place when we get that D coordinator. Free agency will follow shortly after. I think we're a little over a month away from free agency. So, there's for the meantime, what you could be optimistic about is that we will bring the passion and the heat every damn week, and you can bet on that. Take it to the bank.
Yeah. And we're going to continue to bring, if we can't get champions on the field today, we're going to bring you some champions. We're going to get you some rings in the cave. We've already brought you 3 rings in 2 weeks, and we'll get you some more. But I will give a plug for Kelly because he didn't do it. I thought he would. Kelly's got a Thursday segment. I think Ask Kelly K9.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for you guys, if you're not following him on Twitter, and you're not following me, what the hell's wrong with you? But hopefully you guys are. But Kelly's going to give you an opportunity, and I thought it was clever, and I thought it was a lot of fun, is you can ask a question, and he may respond in his Jerry. Maybe Jerry will answer it for you. Someone will. It's going to be a video, so I think that's pretty cool. So that'll be a lot of fun for the off season as well. So make sure you guys check that out.
Oh yeah. Thanks for that, Mike. I did forget to plug that. So the little plug there. So yeah, Thursdays with Swaggy J, and do a tweet in the morning on Thursdays, and let people ask questions that they would want to be answered by Mr. Mr. Swaggy, and then we'll answer them as only Jerry Jones could.
Yes.
So.
Well, I'll have some questions too, so expect a good
There we
answer.
go.
But until then, Cowboys Nation, you guys have a great week. Enjoy it. Hopefully you have a good weekend, all that kind of stuff. And we will be back. And like I said, we'll continue to bring the content. I think we're working on some group shows. So we're gonna keep you busy, man. Just make sure I didn't even say it once during the show, but if you're still hanging with us, subscribe, like, share, spread the word, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need some